Good afternoon, New York. I hope you've all had a good first day of the World Foundry Summit. I'm Alan Rance. I'm Managing Director of Midas Pattern Company. We are a precision foundry pattern making company and a manufacturer of precision polyurethane mouldings. And I'm here today to tell you about the Midas Green Initiative. On the 18th of April 2019, I watched a BBC One documentary called Climate Change: The Facts. And in the space of 60 minutes, it changed my life forever. I made the commitment to change my personal life and my business life to become carbon neutral in every way that I possibly could.
What can be done to avert disaster and ensure the survival of our civilizations?
Climate change is the biggest threat mankind has ever faced, and we all need to play our part in reducing our carbon emissions and creating a net zero environment. This is the story of the Midas Green Initiative, the carbon reduction program implemented at Midas Pattern Company. Midas is a world-leading polyurethane moulding company. We started trading in 1989 and have built into a world-leading PU moulder. We currently employ around 100 local people, and we manufacture the heaviest, the most complex polyurethane mouldings that are used in the medical device sector. Our customers typically develop science that enhances life and saves life. And our enclosures are the final part of the assembly. They are the parts that customers see. We've produced mouldings since the early 90s, and for most of our existence, we've not really considered our carbon footprint or our carbon emissions. But around 3 years ago, we decided to make amends for our carbon intensive past, and so we began the Midas Green Initiative. That documentary changed my life forever. I couldn't believe that my life up to that point, that the success that we'd enjoyed in business, in engineering, was going to be so obviously at the cost of the planet, and that I'd have so little regard for what was happening from a carbon point of view. As I sat and thought about what I'd seen and what I'd understood, I realised that the first thing I could do was to try and resolve the carbon footprint of my personal life. Obviously, our energy, our gas, our travel, our vehicles, our diet, they all play a part in a carbon footprint. So I vowed in those moments that I would change as much as I could, as quickly as I could. The first thing that happened was to change our energy supplier to a truly green supplier. We decided to change our diet. We realised that by becoming vegetarian, that would hugely reduce our carbon footprint and the impact we had on the planet. And within just 2 or 3 weeks, we'd become vegan. We made the decision to not fly anymore. We decided to take international travel out of our agenda. It was something which was huge. We'd always enjoyed travel. We had travelled all over the world. But the time had come where if I was serious about what I was thinking, I needed to make the big changes. And to that end, within 2 weeks, an order had been placed for an electric car. Essentially, I ran down the menu of activities in my life that had a carbon content and just decided to remove them as quickly as I could. And as I went through these processes and these changes, I realised that we could do exactly the same thing at Midas. Within our business, we had the luxury of complete control. We didn't need to wait for somebody to tell us what to do. We could get on and do it ourselves. And I took the decision that the 15 or so tonnes personally that I could see I'd be able to reduce down to 1 or 2, I could do the same at work. And so, using our typical pragmatic engineering mindset, we decided to take the problem on and move from a carbon footprint of some 400 tonnes a year to carbon neutral as quickly as we could. And that began the journey that we call the Midas Green Initiative. So on April the 18th, 2019, the Midas Green Initiative began as a result of watching that programme. And by June 2020, we'd actually become carbon neutral, by our own measurements, of course. But in December 2020, we were certificated carbon neutral by the Carbon Trust. And as we moved through the following year, we actually became carbon net zero in January 2021. And this is the story of how we did it. One of the first things that we did on our journey was to review our energy use. We all know that one of the biggest contributors to our carbon footprint is our energy consumption. And so the first thing that we did was look at our electricity supplier. Obviously, there are companies which are truly green and there are companies which aren't. So by switching our electricity supply to a truly green provider, we were able to negate a large proportion of our carbon immediately with very little effort and very quickly. Along those lines, we looked at our gas consumption. We were looking at switching all of our gas heaters to electric heaters. But with a manufacturing environment that relies on warm air to cure paint and to cure mouldings, we were looking at an investment in excess of £100,000 to change the hardware that heats our factories. We were very fortunate to find a supplier of biogas. Now, biogas blends of 5, 10, 15% are readily available. But by looking hard, we found a supplier that could offer us 100% biogas. And by signing up to a contract for 3 years for 100% biogas supply, we were able to negate all the carbon in our gas and also save a £100,000 investment. In my mind, with that as an opportunity, why wouldn't you do that? One of the biggest decisions we've made on our carbon reduction journey was to invest in a solar PV array. We have 2 factories located side by side. We have large roofs. We have something like 25,000 square feet of roof area. And we decided that one of the best ways to communicate to our suppliers and our customers that we were truly green was to install a solar array. We have something like 187,000 kilowatt hours of capacity on our roof. It's visible for all passers-by, so nothing speaks green louder than a set of solar panels that are catching the sun on a nice day. But of course, solar panels are expensive, and we looked to fund our panels using a finance arrangement that meant that we paid for our solar array over 7 years. And the reason that we chose 7 years was because that meant from day one, the cost of our finance was less than the savings that we made. So in essence, our solar panels were self-financing from the start. We actually made a profit from day one because our savings were greater than our costs. Once again, in my mind, when you think about the savings that we've made, I think as I speak, we're looking at now producing 39% of our annual power consumption from our own roofs. Indeed, on some summer's day, we are fully self-sufficient. We don't buy any energy from the grid whatsoever, and we're an energy-intensive business. So ultimately, our investment in solar panels has spread the word about our ethics and our green credentials. It obviously shows the world our intent, but from a financial point of view, it makes complete sense. It's added profit to the bottom line from day one. I say again, why wouldn't you do that? One of the things that's really important to understand when you're striving for carbon neutrality is the biggest, quickest, easiest win is just reducing your energy consumption. After all, the less energy you buy, the less energy you use, the less carbon you're responsible for. So when you look around your business, one of the easiest things to do is look at your lighting. All factories have an array of lighting anywhere and everywhere. All equipment uses lighting, all manufacturing areas use lighting. And so LED is the obvious win. Now, a lot of people think the investment up front is prohibitive and what's the point? Well, ultimately, when you're trying to reduce your carbon footprint, you're investing in your future. So the cost to go from where you currently are to a carbon neutral situation is a one-off investment. And so for us, we did a stock analysis of all the lighting within both our factories. Once again, we took the early wins first. All the easily accessible fluorescent lights were replaced by LED battens. And then we moved on through equipment and the more difficult fittings. And slowly but surely, we replaced all lights within the business with LED lights. Obviously, LED lights can save up to 2/3 of the running costs of traditional lights. It's easy to work out the cost savings, and of course, you can then supplement those lights with sensors, because ultimately, if a room's not being used, why have the lights on? And so all our communal areas, our meeting areas, our facilities, our rooms that are infrequently or not consistently used have light sensors, motion sensors. And as a result, not only then are we cutting down on the energy consumption our lights use, but also the amount of time the lights are on. And when customers come on site and they look around, and obviously they see LEDs, they see sensors, they see lights flicking on and off, they're left in no doubt that our intentions are genuine. We're a truly green business. Another big energy saving project was the review of our compressed air technology. Midas uses compressed air to run CNC machines, to run shot blast machines, to run a paint plant, and to run polyurethane processing equipment. So we use a lot of compressed air. Even though our compressors were only 10 years old, our supplier made us aware that new technology could be a great deal more efficient than the technology we had in-house. So we took the decision to do some data logging and to review our consumption. And when the report came back, we were staggered at the findings. We were told that if we invested in a new, up-to-date, state-of-the-art compressor system, we could potentially save around 50 to 60% of our energy costs to run our compressors. Now, bearing in mind we were fully committed to the journey to carbon neutrality, we felt that this was a simple decision. We had to do this. But in addition, we started to look at the air that we wasted, because even though we felt our system was good, there were leaks and there were processes that we knew weren't as efficient as they could be. Now, we used to switch the air on when the program started, and even if the program finished in the middle of the night, the air would run until the morning when the staff would come in and turn obviously the air off. So what we did is we fitted a solenoid to each CNC machine. We introduced a line of code into our machining program that would trigger that solenoid, so that all the programs that we ran from that moment had a switch on for the airline and a switch off for the airline, so that we didn't waste any compressed air whatsoever in our machining programs. A combination of the new compressed air system and the solenoids on our CNC machines meant that we saved 60% of our running costs. What that equates to on a £25,000 investment was a payback within 14 months. And we think we're now saving something like £20,000 a year on simply compressing and using air in our process. A fabulous saving from a carbon point of view, a huge step forward in carbon reduction. But a £20,000 a year reduction in costs, that's £20,000 straight on the bottom line. £20,000 of profit made simply through wise green investment. These are simple changes that save money and save the planet. We used our long wheelbase Mercedes Sprinter delivery van to deliver mouldings all over the country. We also used couriers. But the mainstay of our deliveries was our van. But obviously a 2.5 litre diesel van has substantial carbon emissions. And we're doing something like 100,000 miles a year delivering product. Now, one of the things that became obvious to us was we all know that if you use a home delivery service for your shopping or your purchases, you share the carbon content of that delivery with all the other product on that van at that time. And we thought, well, actually, could we not apply that to the delivery of polyurethane mouldings? So what we decided to do, it's quite dramatic, but when you think in terms of carbon, absolutely necessary. We took our van off the road. We allocated our delivery driver to other tasks. That meant that we saved all of our running costs. We saved all of our insurance and MOT costs. We saved the salary of a van driver. And what we did is we used multi-drop couriers for all of our moulding deliveries. That made an impact on our carbon footprint of something like 20-25 tonnes a year. And obviously by so doing, we take responsibility for a proportion of the delivery cost that is appropriate to us, rather than the whole cost, which was the case when we ran our own van. A huge difference in carbon, but a massive cost saving as well. And if it's possible for your business to utilise palletised deliveries, multi-drop couriers, then you can have a huge impact on your carbon footprint. Indeed, when we looked at where we got to at this point, by realigning all of our energy consumption, our gas and electricity consumption, we brought our carbon footprint down to something like 20-30 tonnes a year. And by taking our van off the road and then using the offsets from our solar panels that we gained by the excess energy that we sold onto the grid, it was the removal of our delivery van that brought us to carbon neutrality. And again, I'd implore everybody to look at all aspects of their business and just think outside of the box. Is it possible to do something different? After all, just because you've always done it, it doesn't mean you always have to do it. And when you think through the eyes of the planet and you think through the principle of carbon reduction, it may just be there's something that's happening in your business that you could change, reduce your carbon emissions, save money, therefore make money, and just take your carbon footprint that bit lower, maybe as we did, to the point of carbon neutrality. With carbon reduction, it's important to understand that environmental responsibility and a carbon reduction plan go hand in hand, but they are different subjects. And a good example of that was we decided that we would look at our waste removal. When you think about our waste from the business, we use a local refuse collector that guarantees zero waste to landfill, but the material that we supply them, if it can't be recycled, it gets burnt for refuse-derived fuel. So we felt that we were being particularly responsible in the way that we disposed of our waste. But we used to empty our skip once a week. Now, the refuse lorry travelled 25 miles to Midas, emptied our skip, and then travelled 25 miles back to base. And he did that every week. And we realised that if we invested in a compactor, so we baled our waste before it was put into the skip, we could reduce the amount of lorry movements. So we decided that we would invest. We put a compactor on site, we started to bale our waste, and we found within a couple of months that we'd reduced our skip movements from 1 a week to 1 a month. That's a 75% reduction in the pollution caused by the transport that ferried our waste from site back to the recycling plant. And so now, yes, we save some carbon, we save a small amount of money by reducing our skip lifts, but fundamentally we're recycling the same amount of waste in terms of weight a month, but we've reduced 4 lorry movements to 1. One of the first environmental gains that we made was by looking at our packaging solution. All of our instrument enclosures used to go out wrapped in bubble wrap and packing foam. We would use polypropylene strapping and vinyl tape, and that was acceptable, and that was acceptable for many years. But when we looked at the single-use plastics within our business, we looked to reduce as much and as many as we could, and that drew our attention to packaging. So we bought a cardboard shredder. We started to shred all of the waste cardboard that we had in the business to give it another purpose before it was recycled. We started to wrap our mouldings in brown paper and paper-based bubble wrap. We would then put the shredded cardboard into biodegradable starch bags and use those as packing pillows. And we got to the point where we were using paper tape and paper strapping. And so we'd completely removed all single-use plastics from the packaging process. But not only that, we'd removed the cost of bubble wrap and packing foam from our process. And when we looked at the numbers, we discovered that we had been using 40 large rolls of bubble wrap a month. And essentially in the space of 2 to 3 weeks, we went from spending £1,500 a month on plastic bubble wrap to nothing, because we were producing all of the bulk fill ourselves from our own shredder, using our own cardboard. And very quickly we realised this was the way forward, because obviously when you're saving £1,500 a month, it doesn't take long to get payback on a cardboard shredder. And not only that, you can then expand the amount of those materials that you're using. And so now we offer a service to our neighbours on our industrial estate where we collect their cardboard, we shred it, and then we use it. They're glad to get rid of it, we're glad to repurpose it, and our customers benefit from the fact that 100% of the packing material that arrives with our mouldings is fully recyclable. So by simply investing responsibly in a cardboard shredder, we've transformed not just the packaging solution for our mouldings, but the cost base for packaging. So once again, what's green and environmentally responsible and frankly inspiring to customers saves us money. And whenever we think about saving money, we're making money. Once again, why wouldn't you do that? Midas is now accredited with PAS 2060 Scope 1, 2 and 3. And we're very proud to be able to say that in terms of Scope 1 and 2, we're actually carbon negative. We actually sit in terms of process at about minus 10 tonnes of carbon. But of course, as a responsible manufacturer and a truly green business, we have to take responsibility for the carbon in the product that we sell to our customers. Now, in theory, that carbon is the responsibility of our customers, but if they don't take responsibility for it, then who does? And we took the massive decision to take responsibility ourselves. And so as a result of that, we are accountable for around 160 tonnes of carbon a year that is inclusive within the product that we sell. Now, obviously, unless we make nothing, we can't negate that carbon. So the only choice we have is to offset that carbon. And offsetting is a contentious issue. As truly green people, we don't believe in the standard schemes and processes that are available to offset carbon. And so what we decided to do was, rather than invest in a governmental scheme where we may well be paying for a South American farmer to not cut down a tree, we decided to get involved in a local partnership. And we managed to persuade our local community forest, the Forest of Marston Vale, to partner with us. And we are super fortunate to have signed a 5-year partnership contract whereby we invest in 500 pending issuance units every year and to plant 500 trees every year. Now, what that means is a pending issuance unit is essentially a future of a woodland carbon unit, and it's a woodland carbon unit that essentially offsets 1 tonne of carbon. Now, you may well know that it takes a hardwood tree 100 years of growth to offset 1 tonne of carbon. And so with us purchasing 500 PIUs a year, we are essentially investing in 500 tonnes of carbon negation every year. We believe that by doing that locally, we're able to demonstrate to our customers our truly green intent. And when we say to our customers that we are taking responsibility for the carbon in the mouldings that they purchase from us, we believe that that's not only showing great environmental responsibility, but we think it's inspirational. Because how many suppliers in the market today are truly taking responsibility for their carbon footprint? We don't believe many. And so by making our business carbon net zero by way of our partnership with the Forest of Marston Vale, we're not only able to achieve our carbon neutrality certification, but we can inspire existing customers and new customers alike to work with us simply because we're doing the right thing. We are genuinely trading in a carbon net zero form. We are utterly ethical when it comes to our environmental credentials, and we are already seeing the returns on this. Since the Midas Green Initiative began, our order book has quadrupled. Now that's potentially because of the market we're in, it's because of the quality of product we supply and the service that we offer. But it's also because we're a carbon net zero business that's genuinely accountable and completely auditable and certificated. As business progresses through the next 5 to 10 years, we believe that carbon neutrality and green credentials will be at the forefront of retaining business, winning business, and probably most importantly, retaining staff. And we say to everybody watching today, if you don't do this, where will your business be in 5 to 10 years' time? We're in the midst of a climate crisis. We're watching the polar ice caps melt, the permafrost thaw. We're watching wildfires rage, sea levels rise, and famine is becoming ever more present. Migration is going to become the next big problem if we don't do something to sort this out soon. What we have to do is we have to reverse the damage that we've done. And we can only do that by reducing our carbon footprint and hitting carbon net zero as quickly as we possibly can. We speak whenever we can. We spread the word about the Green Initiative through our social media channels, across our website, and of course through all customer visits. And I genuinely believe, having analysed footfall on our website, which proves that half the traffic is for our normal processes, but half of it is to look at our green activity, that the Green Initiative has contributed hugely to that growth in our order book. From a business point of view, of course, a carbon net zero business attracts more staff. It retains customers. It inspires customers, suppliers and staff alike. And what it means is your business will prosper if you can demonstrate the steps you've taken to achieve carbon neutrality and carbon net zero. But of course, in so doing, you make more profit. The savings in energy that you achieve are savings that go straight to the bottom line. All of the things that you do, all of the investments that you make to improve your situation will improve the stability of your business. And what on earth could be wrong with making a stronger business, a more stable business going into the future that actually helps to reverse the harm that we've done to our planet? The situation we face is a very simple one. If we don't all make amends for the damage that we've done to our planet, we're not going to have businesses in the future, let alone businesses that are successful and making more profit than they are now. And I appeal to you all to do everything that you can to not just improve the strength and substance of your business, but to make amends for your carbon-intensive past. Ultimately, we have the power to do this. We're all owners, CEOs, shareholders, directors. And we mustn't wait to be told what to do by the powers that be, by our governments, because they're not driving us quickly enough. The climate crisis is an emergency now, and we have the power to act now. So I ask you all to exercise that power and please do the very best you can. And after all, when we think about this, we're engineers. We can do anything that we set our minds to. When we decide to take on a challenge, we pragmatically plan our approach and we work through the problem a step at a time and we get to where we want to be. And where we need to be is carbon neutral. And I ask you all to use your foundry common sense, your engineering intellect, and apply yourselves to the problem. Because we mustn't wait to be told what to do. We must act now and make it our own business. If we do that, we can reverse climate change. We can solve the problems the planet faces. the flora and fauna and the creatures that depend on us can rely on us to do the right thing. And in so doing, our businesses will prosper, will be more successful, more stable. And I ask you, what is stopping you from acting now? I hope you've all found the Midas Green Initiative interesting, and I hope it's proven that it really is possible to take your business from where it is now in terms of carbon footprint to a carbon net zero position without too much stress and without too much strain. With a little bit of effort and a redirection of funds and commitment, we can all make this change happen. I thank you all for listening. I thank you all for watching my film, and I wish you all the best for your future in reducing your carbon footprint. Thank you very much.